So what does a Hawaiian look like?
Oh, what does a Hawaiian look like?
Hawaiian looks like anyone. Like you, me.
PDP Kalawoho.
Someone that has that sense of responsibility to take care of Hawaii.
Looks like whatever you want it to look like.
I think anybody who just has that local look to them in Hawaii, so where you can tell they're Kamaiana, they've lived here for a long time.
Maku'e. Maku'e kona ili.
Nowadays it's hard because everything is so mixed, yeah?
The term Hawaiian is super interesting to me, particularly in the ways that it's used. However, when it comes to categorizing people, it gets tricky. Crazy tricky. Tricky in the sense that we as a society have inherited this concept that Hawaiians have to look a certain way. Having assumptions on one's identity based on their appearance creates issues. Issues that can often create conflict, which in turn inflicts pain. To me, it was obvious that the term Hawaiian has gone through so many iterations that it has caused confusion and, even worse, division amongst the community. There are a lot of opinions of what the definition of Hawaiian is and who can call themselves Hawaiian. But when you ask someone, what does a Hawaiian look like? The answers will definitely vary. In this short documentary, I seek out a mana'o of people within the community, as well as in people who have guided me on my journey as a human being, in an attempt to answer the question, what does a Hawaiian look like today? As a kid, this is what a typical weekend looked like to me. Our house was always host to some kind of get-together. Anytime a relative came in from out of town, it was cause for celebration. Most times, though, my family didn't need an excuse to get together. By the time I came along, my household was seasoned veterans to hosting parties. That's just how they were raised, always welcoming and enjoying each other's aloha. This is most likely where my first concept of Hawaiian identity was forged. This is where I first ate Hawaiian food. This is where I first hear Hawaiian music and learn of traditions that have been passed down through generations. In essence, I first became aware that I was Hawaiian through the actions of my surroundings, which in this case were my kupuna and family that emulated that lifestyle. Over the past 10 years, research on Hawaiian history and politics has been able to reveal a much more detailed visual of the way things used to operate, especially during the Hawaiian Kingdom era. Dr. Willie Kawai is a political science professor as well as the director of Native Hawaiian Student Services at UH Manoa. His dissertation was on the subject of Hawaiian nationality, specifically finding out if the Hawaiian Kingdom based its nationality on race.
Within the codification of citizenship within Hawaiian Hawaiian Kingdom law, there were three primary pathways to becoming a Hawaiian. The first was the basic principle of birth on the soil, meaning that anybody born within the realm of the king would automatically be considered a Hawaiian subject. The other was through parentage. So, for example, if two Hawaiian nationals gave birth to a child not on the shores, not on the soil of the Hawaiian Kingdom, but abroad, that child would still have a path to Hawaiian citizenship. The last particular pathway is through naturalization. And the naturalization occurring in the 1840s and the 1850s is something unique on a worldly scale, right? Because of the fact that the kingdom's naturalization laws were racially inclusive. Regardless of the color of your skin, you could relinquish your allegiance to your former country, pledge your allegiance to the Hawaiian Kingdom. You would also be, of course, expected to pay property tax pay taxes essentially, and you could also acquire Hawaiian citizenship. So unlike today, the term Hawaiian in the 19th century was an inclusive marker of membership.
Any person, regardless of race, could become a citizen in the Hawaiian Kingdom. People who were born in the Hawaiian Kingdom were considered native Hawaiians.
So regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your phenotype, your physical characteristics, anybody could qualify, if you will, to become a Hawaiian national. The term Hawaiian, unlike today in the context of U.S. occupied Hawaii, the term Hawaiian is used predominantly in an ethnic or racial sense. And that of course has much to do with the institutionalization of American racial logic, American racial ideology after 1898 through the illegal annexation.
It's crazy to think about the transition which occurred in such a short amount of time, from kingdom to territory, from nationality to ethnicity. Suddenly the term Hawaiian became race-based, exclusive only to those with Kanaka blood. Then I started to think about people in my parents' generation, whose appearance definitely did not look like the stereotypical Hawaiian, and that often got them into conflict. This is Dr. Puaka'ai, a seasoned educator and current principal for Kamehameha Middle School. She too faced discrimination because of her appearance.
Being in the voting line for OHA with my dad in Hauula Elementary and having someone tell me get out of the line because I was in the wrong line, and those were the days when you had to be Hawaiian to vote in the OHA election. And the first time I just kind of brushed it off, but the second time it happened, I actually got kind of angry, and I just left the line and I went to the other line. And when the woman realized who my father was and who I was with, she, apologetically said, hey, you can get back in that line. And I wasn't going to do it, because I think that's the kind of tension that's unfortunate, that sometimes our own people judge based upon the visual recognition, the visual of what they see. And that's not always fair. I don't know if it's stereotype in a way that we think on the continent, stereotyping. It's more misunderstanding and more of a feeling of unfairness.
Like Puaka'ai, many native Hawaiians who did not match the race-based view of what a Hawaiian should look like were subject to being excluded from being able to participate within their own community. Nothing could probably hit home more than the recollections from my own parents. In some instances, even if you were Hawaiian, you could be called out or ridiculed based on your blood quantum, like my dad.
I didn't really get into the how much Hawaiian you are until I went to Kamehameha. When I went to Kamehameha, I started there in first grade, and that's when I can remember people asking, "Oh, how much Hawaiian are you?" And I'm only 1/8 Hawaiian. So back then it's, oh, what, on your baby toe? That's your Hawaiian, your baby toe.
Sometimes they had to find ways to physically protect themselves from discrimination.
It was painful. And I guess it was painful because I'm Hapahaole. So trying to fit in as a Hawaiian when I was younger, especially in high school, attending Kahuku High School and even attending King Intermediate, it was difficult to identify myself as a Hawaiian, but I don't think I was much into it. The only time I noticed the difference is when I had to fight, or when people said fucking haole to me, or those kinds of things. So I probably strive to be what I thought was, or what I viewed as being Hawaiian. That was to act like a tita in high school, be most disrespectful of people and walking around, sauntering around, like, giving people stink eye, and because that's what a lot of the girls did, right? And of course I realize now that we all have issues identifying as Hawaiian, even Hawaiians, right? But for me, it was a little painful, and sometimes it still is, because people still call me haole, right? And I don't think I bristle as much as I used to when it's done, but it still hurts when it's coming from another Hawaiian.
To me, as long as it's in your heart, and as long as you have this love for the Aina, then it's good, and I've learned throughout the years that there's even the Kanaka that that has no clue about his culture. So if I was going to base it upon what do you call it, how I view you with my eyes, I would say that I've come to the point now where I judge you by more by your actions than what you look like. Yeah,
I'd agree.
A key point that I've taken away from my findings is that the term Hawaiian wasn't race-based. The issues that people like Dr. Ka'ai and my mom faced are real consequences of assuming someone's identity based on their appearance. Hawaiians make up an entire spectrum of appearances, and after hearing some of the mana'o from the community, I've come to the realization that the look of a Hawaiian, especially today, is not that of an appearance, but instead one of demonstration.
Growing up with a Hawaiian father and a mom from Boston, we were never told, you'll do things this way because you're a Hawaiian. But I know now, looking back, that much of what we did growing up had its roots in my dad's way of being a Hawaiian. For example, the fishing and the work ethic and learning to sew net and clean fish, things like that we just learned growing up. The fishing, the farming, the taking care of one another, opening our home to whomever. I mean, we had all kinds of people come through our home, but stay with us as well. And I think those things are all indicative of being Hawaiian, although nobody said you're doing this because you're Hawaiian. It was innately what we did as a family.
For me, when you get back to the guts, your nitty gritty, it's about your attachment to land. It's about your aloha for Aina.
I think it's your attachment to land and your attachment to ohana.
Yes.
These insightful experiences shared by Dr. Kai and my mom are amongst many that so many within the Hawaiian community are holding on to. So when someone asks, what does a Hawaiian look like today? I think of my friends. I think of my family. And I think of all the people who have guided me in life. To me, they're all Hawaiian. And they come in many forms. I look to the late John Dominus Holt, a famous Hawaiian author and playwright. In his book, On Being Hawaiian, Holt mentions his mana'o on the definition of Hawaiian. He says that it comes from many things, from knowing what it is to care, to truly care about other people, to understand the value of loving what it is in nature, loving with it in a balance of coexistence, respecting all things of the earth, including rocks and dirt as living things related somehow through a cosmic connection to ourselves. I've only managed to skim the surface of this question, and I'm sure there are many people, not just Hawaiians, who have experienced the same type of discrimination as well. This is just the beginning of my attempt to answer this question, and I look forward into the future, into finding more stories within our own community that can help bridge us together and knock down these barriers that we have that are based on assumptions. I think the sooner we can do that, the easier it is for us to find common ground in order to find solutions to the many problems that we're facing here in Hawaii.